I'm going to be sharing the first initial iteration of the multiply outbound sales algorithm. So I have it loaded up, um, and basically, yeah, it had this homepage. It has this homepage, next generation A/B experimentation platform with some of the features and how it works. Also, a get started call to action, and it had a couple of different things. So it has a content section, so it's content generation. Right now, there's a huge like push for AI generated content, or at least like last year and 2 years ago, when large language models were really starting to pop up. And a lot of people are using these chatbots. And I thought, why make 100 different messages when I can just give the chatbot information and it can make those messages for me. So I enter the name of the product, the name of the audience, maybe if there was a specific industry. And then this was really important because I could actually mention which pain points the audience had and which features the product had. So then I would tell it to, choose a specific platform in any language. It's language agnostic. It would create a five-piece um, message sequence where each person would receive a certain number of messages. And then I would input those primarily for LinkedIn and email. It's actually really interesting, the phone part, but primarily for LinkedIn and email, I would make those messages. Let me actually give it a test. So make double college students. I don't know what the name of the industry would be for the college students. Um, pain points, broke, hungry. You can already see it. It fibbed there. I didn't save the product name, so let me actually save it. Okay. College students. Features for the product, tasty. So let's say McDonald's was designing a LinkedIn campaign or an email campaign to reach out to college students that are broke and hungry with a tasty and cheap McDouble in English. And it's going to send 3 messages, including it's going to come up with a subject line. So here it would create a a message that would target each pain point for the first phase. The first phase is the first message that it sends in the sequence. So if I press generate content, it should give me a subject, greeting, pain point, and solution. So hey, discover McDouble's affordability with a greeting. This is now for the body of the message. So financial constraints may affect your daily activities. Indicates you're mindful and resourceful with your spending habits. I'm not sure. I would definitely work on that prompt that it's sending out, just to get a one that would maybe adapt more to the target audience instead of being so rigid. It probably has a really rigid prompt. So I'll probably create a first agent that would then create the prompt for the second agent with some kind of guidelines, but adjusted to the industry. And then solution that McDouble's affordability helps college students save money, reduce stress, and improve budget management. It's pretty cool. So it actually takes into account the features of the product to address the pain point, and then the call to action is really silly. Again, it's really rigid because of the prompt that's hard coded into it. But that's basically what it does. It would go in for every pain point, and then that would be submitted as a message that it would test. So it's just to set up the testing variables. So moving on to the experiment details. So here, this is actually for the full experiment option. So what this is referring to, it's a commercial experiment, and it's getting all the commercial experiments that the user has available, the user that's currently logged in. And so which experiment do you want to review? Here it only has one experiment, so you would get the experiment details. This is some boilerplate that I have in there, but you could see how the experiment has more than one variation, and that variation is representative of the content that's in it. So for example, something that has different content, it's going to have a different variation. If it's actually something that's uploaded with the same content, it wouldn't even post to the database. So for example, if I want to export the content, then it would generate a CSV for me, or a table that I could download as a CSV. So this is for loading it then different um, into different messaging platforms, or the actual where the actual experiment would be sent out to the people who would receive it. So this is pretty interesting. It has all the information from the customer that the experiment was assigned to, and it also has all these variables that can be used as custom fields in the messaging. It's pretty useful. And then for getting the variable options, if I wanted to make a new experiment, then I could select certain variables, these variables being different messages. So if I wanted the first phase message, second, and the third, I could make an entire sequence simply by doing this. And I could make a couple different variations where I would select different variables. Number of trials is actually the number of customers each experiment would be assigned to. So maybe with one experiment, one trial, one person per variation, we could get an initial estimate, even though the recommendation is that I personally give is 25. So there we go. We get a response from the API, the backend. But the thing is, the backend, it's just saying that, it was successfully submitted. I don't have enough customers right now. I don't have 250 customers in there to be able to actually generate the experiment. So we saw a quick load. Normally it takes more time. This is just telling us that the backend received the request. Here's the phone assistant. This is actually the product that I've seen the most product market fit for. It's really interesting. So phone assistant right here, it had some kind of tracker, which actually wasn't disabled. This is static content. This is not pulling the agenda. But, oh, it's saying that basically there's no call scheduled right now for this user. So buggy. But yeah, there's a select phase, phase one, get script, select script, and then it would give me all the versions of that script. So the phase is like a certain objective. For example, if you're trying to reach out to the front desk and get more information, you'd have different ways of doing that. And then for how many prospects you'd select the number of prospects. And again, it's just going to generate an experiment, but the same way as the other one generated an experiment, this is going to generate it for that one variable. And if there was any calls that were actually generated, then it would be in the call agenda. In terms of statistics, it was very rudimentary. I was just trying to export the information out of cloud file store without out of this one. I forgot. But out of cloud file store without having to go into the database. So I would just basically make it into a data frame, pull the entire thing, and then I would be able to analyze it by downloading it as a CSV. It also has some pretty cool features where I could blow it up, and I could also search through it if I wanted to search for a particular thing or a field. And then here is pretty interesting too. So here's where the actual ingress of customers would happen. So I would go in and I would select a file. Once I submit it, it would display the file. And then when I press submit again, it would send to the API. Here it's having an error. So maybe, I don't know, something's happening. So it's receiving the data. It's receiving the data, but it's probably not formatted correctly. There's something wrong with the formatting. It's probably a field that's missing. So there's some field that's missing that it's expecting. That's just because I've been working on the new version. And the backend is probably more prepared for that. So, I mean, that's it. This is the AP experimentation platform. I built it from scratch. It's on Streamlit, Python 3.9. think, or 3.10. And it has an OpenAI backend for the content generation. For the statistics backend, I hard coded it from scratch. I didn't want any dependencies in terms of ML. I think it's changing a lot. So I just wanted some really robust, easy, rudimentary statistics engine in the back. So I just made it from scratch, so that every experiment that's generated would be the optimal script. So the algorithm can learn and give you the best script as you make more calls. And that's multiply outbound.